was beaten up by a space ninja. I guess she just ran out of luck. Now she must team up with Section 31. Not that I give a fuck.
Hey guys, welcome to part 5 of this horrible review of a horrible movie. Today we're going to be continuing the torture. But before we do, I do want to address an interesting theme in the comments of the last video. It seems that not one, not two, but at least 3 of you have all decided to gang up on me on one particular issue. And that is my complaints that Georgiou, the box, everything else didn't fall through the floor, even though they were out of phase with the rest of the universe. So I'm going to take each of these questions as they come. So the most recent one, at least at the time of this writing, was Ervik Sonder 206, who says, floors and walls are reinforced with quantum plating. I assume that's what he said, because it says playing, but yeah, not judging. Quantum plating for just these situations. That is a really interesting idea. I've never heard of quantum plating before, but I would not be surprised. If the Berman era of Trek had continued, I'll bet you anything that quantum plating would have been a thing by like Enterprise season 6 or 7. I wonder what that would have been like.
How are your targeting scanners?
Lined and ready, sir.
Bring the weapons online. Polarize the quantum hull plating. Lay in a 60-degree vector.
Nitpicking Nerd says the floor's gravity plates are vibrating in all quantum frequencies, so nothing ever gets through the floor. That is interesting. However, why in the world would they expend so much energy into trying to actually get the floors to vibrate in every quantum frequency? I mean, come on. I know I'm nitpicking here, but at the same time, come on, we're nerds. You can come up with something better than that. Speaking of which, this absolute jerk named A Real Know-It-All commented with the most detailed and at least has references here. And he says, to be fair, 5 minutes and 33 seconds, which is when I was talking about this stuff, the X-Men universe has dealt with this for a while with Kitty Pryde, who phases. True. Also, Star Trek itself in TNG has shown deck plating is clearly different than hull plating. So let's take this in order of what you said. As far as Kitty Pryde, for those of you who do not know, Kitty Pryde was a member of the X-Men. She went by the name Sprite at one point. She went by Shadowcat at one point. She kept changing her look and all that. She was annoying. But Kitty Pryde had the ability to phase through solid objects. That was, in fact, her mutant power. And it's true that, generally speaking, when you saw her both in the comic books and in the X-Men movies, you would see her run through solid objects, and yet she was perfectly fine as far as floors were concerned, right? So what's going on there? And so I want to point out a couple of things. First, very early on in her run in the X-Men, keep in mind, Professor Xavier's school, the whole point of it is for mutants to go there and learn to hone and control their powers more effectively. And one thing that Kitty learned was that while phased, she could actually not exactly fly, but she could walk on air, because basically when she was out of phase, she had zero mass, and so she could literally give herself just enough mass to walk on air molecules and stuff, and basically walk around in the sky, walk on anything, which means that as far as her staying on the floor, that's entirely up to her. We also do see her use her phasing power to go through floors frequently in both the comic books and in the movies. And she also uses her phasing power to force others to phase through the floors, such as the infamous Juggernaut. All that being said, I don't even have to defend the Kitty Pryde thing because now you may not be aware of this, Mr. Know-It-All,
but she's from a different universe.
Even if she was in the current MCU, the current MCU has nothing to do with Star Trek. So, points for creative thinking, I guess, but, dumb. As for the TNG reference, I actually, just so you guys know, obviously, A Real Know-It-All is Mr. Know-It-All, my co-host over on Nerd Fights. And so I called him up and actually asked him to be more specific as far as his TNG reference. I wanted to make sure that we were talking about the same thing. And he was talking about the episode that I thought, but I just want to make sure. The episode is Next Phase, an episode from the 5th season of TNG, in which, thanks to a transporter accident, Ro and Geordi find themselves out of phase with everything else. So nobody can see them, nobody can hear them, and nobody can touch them. And while they walk through walls and stuff like that and have all these zany adventures throughout the episode while out of phase, we do also see that weapons that are out of phase work on people that are out of phase. In addition to that, they also walk around on floors. They don't fall through the floors, just like in Section 31. So it seems like pretty much a slam dunk here. It's the same thing. So what I should do is either take off the 3 red turds that I gave it for that, or add a green turd for them being at least consistent with the TNG episode. Except that, and again, I know I'm being nitpicky, but that's what I do, so suck on that, Mr. Know-It-All. In the episode, there is actually a scene that explains exactly what happened to them.
I've never seen anything like this. There's something in here that looks like a molecular phase inverter. A few years back, we got intelligence reports that the Klingons were working on trying to combine a phase inverter and a cloaking device. The Romulans might be pursuing that same technology, trying to combine an inverter and a cloaking device. And if this is the prototype...
Then that would explain the explosion in the chronoton fields.
And us.
You mean we're cloaked?
I believe I may know what has happened, sir.
Oh, Data, please be right.
It would explain the mysterious chronoton fields. If they were cloaked in some way.
So yes, they are in fact cloaked using a Romulan cloaking device. And there is no mention of any kind of quantum shift for them. In fact, the only kind of techno-babbly stuff that they talk about is chronoton radiation.
Then that would explain the explosion in the chronoton fields.
It would explain the mysterious chronoton field.
We'll need to speed up their growth with time particles called chronotons.
Aren't those the particles that destroyed an entire civilization?
Good news, everyone! You're off to the Tempest Nebula to gather chronotons.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Sure, because I nitpicked, I'm technically correct. But you know what? Salty!
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Now, I will say this, much to Mr. Know-It-All's credit, I know that he obviously knows Star Trek better than the writers of Section 31. And I really think that it would have made more sense if they had said that the device that Georgiou was using was a phase inverter derived from these Romulan experiments to create a phase cloak. Or they could also say that it came from the experiments that the Federation had to make a phase cloak in the later episode Pegasus. But unfortunately, the writers of Section 31, I guess, forgot to watch either Pegasus or the Next Phase, so they just went with Quantum. So last time, we discussed the fight between Georgiou and the mysterious space ninja. However, while we did cover the fight itself as a whole, we didn't really break down a couple of important elements during the fight. The first, and in my opinion, most annoying factor is the fact that this, very typical of this show as a whole, uses hyper camera movements at every given opportunity in order to hide the fact that little, if any, effort was really put into the choreography of these fights. It feels more like the director just said, hey, Michelle, fight. And Michelle, not being an expert martial artist, but being very good with choreography because she is trained as a dancer, well, she didn't really know what to do. The other thing I do want to talk about is this. Actually, no, that's not what I was talking about. I really don't want to talk about naked Andorians right now, but I am giving it the 3 red turds. It's this.
Mally's coming to you.
Yikes.
So I assume that line was supposed to be funny. It wasn't. So at this point, the fight comes crashing into the main bar where Mel was waiting as their backup. So Mel immediately uses her telepathic powers in order to seduce. Immediately grabs her weapon and starts to shoot. Mel shows off her badass martial arts skill. Mel flippantly comes over the bar, smiles, and then is killed. Oh, and one more thing, and this is just one of those things that I wish they could be consistent within their own universe. Didn't this guy's gun just fire bolts? So why is it now firing a beam? Is it a phaser? Is it a blaster? What the heck is it? Give up? I'll tell you what it is. It's a big pile of bullshit. Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford here, and I need to apologize for the remarks in the previous section of this review. Upon further review, it becomes clear that early in the fight, Georgiou actually disarms the space ninja. Then, once they're in the bar, we actually see the space ninja wrestle away Mel's gun. And so he actually shot her with her own weapon, not the weapon which he used. So, I was about to put the 3 points back on until I realized that she shot at him not even 3 seconds earlier, and that was a frickin' bolt, not a beam, which means these riders are
Please note, the preceding images and commentary were for humorous purposes only and do not reflect the views of the Salty Plus Network, Salty Worldwide Conglomerate International, Michael J. Crawford, or any rational individual. Please note, the preceding disclaimer contained a minor inaccuracy. Please strike the 15th word from that statement for correction. Thank you.
So, after the fight, we actually get a glimpse of the doomsday weapon. And I have to say, I don't know why, but I just get the sneaking suspicion that this is a copy of something else.
Here's the original.
No, that's not it. Look, no disrespect intended to Britain's greatest secret agent of all time, but while there are some striking similarities in the design of the Fabergé egg compared to the doomsday device, the size just doesn't quite add up. I mean, this doomsday device is roughly the size of a soccer ball, fits into like a briefcase, is basically portable, and yet can destroy an insane amount of the galaxy. Trying to think, I don't know what it is.
I must tell you, Hedonism Bot, I hate to sell my doomsday devices to a private collector.
What does this one do?
That one kills everything everywhere.
How delightful. And this one?
Sir, the spheral bomb is not for sale.
You knew that weapon. What is it?
Now, of course, it makes perfect sense that Alok would ask her what the weapon was, since he had absolutely no idea what it was, right?
Flashback.
Our target's name is Dada No. He's been designing bioweapons on spec.
No's on his way to the Baram to sell his latest creation to the Minoshan High Council.
End of flashback.
Okay, look, I know that some of you are probably thinking, yeah, but he wasn't actually selling a biological weapon because it's her mega doomsday device, which we haven't even talked about yet. However, Alok doesn't know that yet. So, Georgiou turns around and explains to Alok exactly what the weapon turns around defiantly, and Alok decides to press her for the information. Georgiou turns around and begins to charge at him, so Alok just shoots her in the face. You know, I swear I would add 500 green turds to the score right now if that were the end of this movie. So while Georgiou is unconscious, we enter into her mind for a flashback. In this flashback, we get to see that many years after the Hunger Games fun, well, she still had San working for her, burned face and all, and he built the doomsday bomb for her. Wasn't that nice of him? Then he killed himself in front of her, just to spite her, I guess. And I'm sure that that is the end of the character of San. I'm sure his demise is absolutely permanent, and the fact that we've already introduced a mysterious figure dressed in black has nothing to do with him whatsoever. Fuck.
So Georgia whipped out her quantum magic disc to steal the sphere, a boom with very little risk. But through the wall came Space Ninja Sam, who had his own quantum magic gizmo plan, and the pace of their fight was not exactly brisk. So the fight was dragging on, it was clear it was not exactly going by real quick. So they ran past a bug having sex with a blue man with no dick, Well then Sam killed the sexy bald chick, fought a little bit more than made his exit right quick. Now I think I wanna bury my head in the sand, for I have seen all I can stand. Watching Section 31 makes me feel rather withdrawn. When I try to sleep I toss and turn from night until the dawn. I wanna look to the sky and just scream. Classic Trek is something now for which I can only dream. But for now I will just move on and thank all my friends on Patreon. Jason Rogers.